Our work is never finished because of change. Keep fighting for what is absolutely vital as a part of what clients need to assist their future. And most of all, sit back, enjoy the day's proceedings, and board the new train for the next part of the journey. Thank you.
Well, first of all, to say that I am really excited to be working at the Wealth Management Association, and today I launched a strategic review of the WMA to ensure that we remain relevant to the needs of our members, including how can we develop the talent of the future, what should simplified advice be, and what support can the WMA give to members, particularly in the face of increasing regulation.
It's going to be a fascinating day, actually. The theme that we're going to be running to is the theme of change the way you change, which means that it's not actually just about change, it's about changing our perspective on change. And there's a couple of really crucial issues that I want to explore. One is people's attitude towards change from a cultural perspective, but also in the second half of the day, we're going to be looking at what change means from a women in business perspective, women on the board perspective, and that's going to be really fascinating. And I'm hoping that this thread we weave through ends up creating a very consistent perspective for all of the people that attend, and indeed provoke some very, very interesting conversations at the end of the day.
Well, I do think that sometimes our young people can count themselves out of careers before they necessarily know what they absolutely entail. I think we should be honest and say that obviously the city, and I speak as a former city lawyer, has been through some turbulent times recently, but I suspect also it's sometimes just not being aware of the breadth of careers that are available in the City of London, and I think perhaps a fear of the working hours and the culture that there might be. And I guess it's incumbent on all of us, but particularly obviously all the people here today who are members of the Wealth Management Association and everyone working in the city, to make it clear to our young girls when they're receiving careers advice and support and advice on subjects they need to take, to show them the opportunities that are out there and the skills that they'll need in order to be a success.
The city in particular doesn't seem to attract women. In fact, we were discussing that on the panel today, and I think the wealth management industry has got to work harder to take more time to ensure that it is attracting women, and then they've got to ensure that they're actually promoting women at the same rate. One of the problems that you have within the wealth management industry is you tend to have small teams. If you're a company the size of PwC, which I think they employ something like 500,000 around the world, you can actually compare and contrast UK against the US, tax in Birmingham against tax in Manchester, and you're dealing with a lot of data points, and you can tell there's something going wrong in one particular area of the business in terms of managing talent. When you take a small asset management company, it's actually a lot harder.
The first thing that I would say to anyone in business is actually go out there and do it. Don't fear failure. You know, ask the why not. More importantly, as a woman, I think the thing that stands out is be yourself, be true to your values, and don't be bullied into thinking that you have to change your mind.
There is a changing investment landscape out there, which basically is going to encourage investors to try and get more for their money, or get more out of their money, as they realise that they have to prepare more for their later lives financially. So all those factors, broadly speaking, are positive for investment trusts.
So how are financial services doing in the much more complex world that we are living in? Well, if I look at the UK CSI, you will see that they sit about mid-table. So banking and insurance is around about the mid-table. The best performers in terms of customer service are the retail and the services sector. And then towards the bottom of the table are the utilities and telcos. Now, the whole world is much more complex, and often people will say to me, but it's much more difficult in my sector. The reality is as customers and consumers, our expectations have increased, and we want to be far more involved and far more knowledgeable about the products and services which people are giving to us.
I think there's two big lessons from the Scottish referendum. The first one is the result can be closer than you might think. So if you call a referendum, you really need to be sure that you're willing to accept either outcome, And the politicians who are deciding whether or not to hold a referendum really need to think about that. And the second thing is that we've certainly found that as the referendum campaign continues, facts and evidence, which is what we're interested in, it's what investors are interested in, really don't play the part that you hope that they would. And I think there's a lesson there for the UK EU referendum as well.
The really interesting thing about this is that a lot of the key successes are things that nobody knows about. We live in a world where there is more regulation, more requirements of compliance than ever. And what the WMA and all the staff there ensure is that the regulatory environment is one in which we can properly serve our own clients.